Hey guys, what's up? Roman here from Tech Guides, and in this video I will show you everything you need to know in order to install Nextcloud Hub on your own home server. So in today's tutorial we're going to go over all of the requirements that you need in order to install Nextcloud on your home server, how to set up your own MySQL database for Nextcloud, how to install and set up Apache in order to point a domain name to your Nextcloud instance, how to install Nextcloud including all of its configurations, how to set up SMTP in order to send emails from Nextcloud, how to install ONLYOFFICE, which allows you to directly edit Word, Excel and PowerPoint files directly from your browser, and finally how to troubleshoot common issues with PHP extensions that are required for Nextcloud, as well as how to set up a cronjob, which is required in order for Nextcloud to run properly. Now, for those of you guys who don't know what Nextcloud is, this is basically one of the most useful software that you can install on your own server. It basically allows you to host your own cloud, comparable to Google Drive or Dropbox, but you are actually in charge of all of your files, and no third-party company is going to be able to spy onto the data that you want to store on your own cloud. Also, Nextcloud Hub now comes with an amazing assortment of different tools like calendars, synchronization of contacts from your phone, a password manager, chat functionality, video conferencing, and in-browser collaborative document editing. Basically, if you ever wondered why you would ever want to have a home server, Nextcloud is the reason why. And with having said that, let's hop right into how to install Nextcloud Hub on Ubuntu 20.04. So before we can actually start installing Nextcloud itself, we first have to install Apache, which is the web server on top of which Nextcloud is running, as well as MySQL, which is the database server which Nextcloud uses to save its files. Now, if you have already played with your server before, then potentially you've already installed Apache or MySQL, in which case you can simply skip this step. On the other hand, if you haven't installed Apache or MySQL, here's how to install them. Type sudo apt update to update your repositories, followed by sudo apt install Apache 2, as well as sudo apt install MySQL-server. Now, it's really important that when you have just installed MySQL, you have to first secure it before you actually use it. So type sudo mysql_secure_installation and set up some security components of MySQL. Personally, I don't really like to be forced to use very secure passwords because it's my MySQL server on my test environment, so I answer no. But if you only want to use very strong passwords, then you can obviously answer yes to this question. Set a root password, re-enter that root password, remove the anonymous user, disallow remote root login, remove the test database and access, and reload privileges now. Next, log into your MySQL database, enter the password that you have just set up before, and set up the user and database for your Nextcloud instance. So first, we are going to create a database called Nextcloud, as well as a user, which we'll call Nextcloud as well, which lives at localhost and is identified by some secure password. Obviously, you should definitely use something more secure than MyPass. Next, you'll have to grant privileges of your newly created Nextcloud user onto your Nextcloud database. This is done by grant all privileges on Nextcloud.star, which means all of the successor tables within the Nextcloud database, to Nextcloud, which is a user that lives in localhost. Finally, you want to flush privileges and quit MySQL. And that's it, that's all you have to do in order for Nextcloud to work with your MySQL database. By the way, if you prefer to not type in everything from this video into your own consoles, then definitely check out the blog post that I created for this specific video linked in the card right now, where you can copy-paste all of the commands that I show in this video directly into your console. Now, as the final preparation step before we can actually move on to installing Nextcloud itself, we also have to download and install PHP. Now, it might be that you already have PHP installed on your server. However, I would really recommend that you install the latest version of PHP, which is version 7.4, to get the best compatibility with Nextcloud. So to install the latest version of PHP, we type sudo apt install php 7.4. As you can see, the PHP installer automatically enables the PHP module for Apache. Additionally, you want to install a few PHP extensions in order for Nextcloud to work properly. The first bunch include php-gd, the MySQL link, the curl and MB-string extension. Also, it's recommended to install Intel, GIMP, BCMath as well as XML. Finally, install zip, php-imagick as well as php-ACPu. This last library here is essentially required in order to use the ACPu caching method, which I'll explain later in this video. Now it's finally time to download Nextcloud. For this, head over to nextcloud.com, click on Get Nextcloud, click on Server Packages, right-click on Download Nextcloud, click on Copy Link Address, and back on your server you can download this by typing wget and printing the download link. As you can see, this will download the Nextcloud version 21.zip file, which we're now going to unpack into the proper directory. Now for this we are going to use unzip, and just in case that you haven't installed unzip just yet, you can install it by simply typing sudo apt install unzip. Then unzip Nextcloud into the var.www directory. Now this is the regular directory that Apache usually serves whenever someone is browsing onto your server. Finally, we'll need to change ownership of the Nextcloud folder. For this, change directories to var www and type sudo change ownership -R www-data :www-data. So this is basically the Apache user on Ubuntu, and then we want to change ownership recursively of the entire Nextcloud folder. And that's it. If you now look into your Nextcloud folder, you can see that all files belong to the Apache user. Next, we are going to have to do a few configuration steps in Apache in order to actually access our Nextcloud installation in the browser. So first, let's enable a few modifications to Apache. To do this, type sudo a2 nmod. We need the headers, env, dir, and my module. Next, we're going to have to set up a virtual host entry in the Apache configuration file in order for Apache to successfully point somebody who is browsing onto our web server to the var www Nextcloud folder. For this, we have to change into the Apache directory and into sites available and edit the OO-defaults configuration file. Now, generally I would recommend to set up Nextcloud the first time without the use of SSL, just to make sure that everything properly works before we actually switch over to SSL, which actually I have described in a different video. So edit the OO default configuration with Nano, for example, which is a very easy text editor. Now I'm going to remove these lines by pressing Ctrl-K, which basically cuts this line, but we're actually not going to paste it anywhere. We don't really need the server admin. The document root is going to be var www/nextcloud. Now, in case that you guys already have a domain name, then you can put this here under server name, something like cloud.yourdomain.com. However, it's not really necessary for you to actually have a domain in order for you to use Nextcloud. But if you want to use Nextcloud from outside your local network, then you probably want to buy a domain name or get a free domain name from CloudDNS or another dynamic DNS provider. Let's also delete these lines. And finally, let's set up a few options for this virtual host entry. So we want to type directory, which again is var www/nextcloud. Don't forget the trailing slash. Now we want to require all granted, allow override all, as well as options follow some links multi-views. Now, in case you want to know what these options actually means, I'll leave a link in the description below. Finally, we want to give some options in case the module dev is enabled, which are essentially simply dev off. And that's it. Let's close the directory. and leave the error and custom log as they are. Let's remove these last lines here and save the file by typing Ctrl+X, Y, and Enter. Finally, we are going to have to restart Apache in order to reflect our changes to the modules as well as the default configuration file. This is done by typing sudo service apache2 restart. Now, if this happens, then that means that you have probably made a bit of a boo-boo somewhere, or some configurations simply don't really work. So what you can do is just to print this to see what's going on. And here it tells me that I made a syntax error on line 10 of the default configuration file, basically some invalid command operations, which is probably kind of misspelled. So let's press Ctrl+Z, open the configuration file again, and obviously this should be options instead of whatever the hell I wrote there. Let's save the file, restart Apache, and if nothing happens, then you know that Apache was successfully restarted. Now at this stage, we could actually already access our Nextcloud instance through our browser. For this, however, we need to know the local IP address that this machine has in our local network. If we don't know the local IP address, we can type hostname -I awk print $1. And as you can see in my case, this server is running under 192.168.1.50. Now, I would highly recommend that you set up a static local IP address for your home server in your home network. You can basically do this by going to your router configuration, which is usually the standard gateway that is behind 192.168.1.1. Go to your network tab and assign a static IP address to your home server. And that's it. If you set this up correctly, you should now be able to access your Nextcloud instance by simply entering the local IP address of your home server into your browser. Now, please apologize that this example here is in German here. Obviously, I am Swiss, so therefore some of my PC settings are in German. However, what you have to put in here is rather straightforward. You simply have to enter an admin username as well as an admin password. Don't bother about this for now. Enter the Nextcloud user that we have set up before, as well as the database password. I think this was my pass. The database name was once again Nextcloud, and leave the host on localhost. Leave recommended apps installed ticked, and click on Finalize installation. Now, this might actually take quite a little bit of time depending on the machine that you're running Nextcloud on, so don't worry, just leave this page open and wait for everything to set up in the background. And that's it, you have successfully installed Nextcloud Hub on your home server. Now, the first thing you want to do is to click on your user icon, click on Settings, go to Overview in the Administration tab, and now we're going to tackle all of these security and setup warning issues. So the first thing that we are going to do is to raise the PHP memory limit from the current value to 512 megabytes. You can do this by going to the etc. PHP, the PHP version that we just installed, so 7.4, Apache, and here you'll find the php.ini configuration file. You can search for stuff in a file by pressing Ctrl+W, and let's increase the memory limit to 512 megabytes. Press Ctrl+X, Y, and Enter again to save the file, and restart Apache. Now, if we come back into Nextcloud, you should see that the PHP warning has disappeared. Now, obviously, it is warning me that I'm currently accessing my Nextcloud instance over HTTP rather than HTTPS. As already mentioned, if you're interested in how to secure your Nextcloud instance using an Apache reverse proxy, then check out the linked video in the card right now. The next thing you want to do is to enable a memory cache, which enhances performance of our Nextcloud instance. Now, during the installation of the different PHP modules in the beginning of this video, I already mentioned that we install the php-ACPu module, which is essentially just for memory caching. We can enable this in the configuration of Nextcloud by going to var www/nextcloud config and editing the config PHP file. To enable caching, simply add a new line on the bottom, which states memcache.local oc memcache apcu. Make sure not to forget the last comma. By the way, whilst we're in the config.php file, this is also where you have to set up trusted domain in case that you actually already bought a domain for your Nextcloud instance. So for example, if you bought a domain name which is maybe called cloud.yourdomain.com, then this is exactly where you have to put it in order for Nextcloud to accept connections over this domain. Finally, in order to get rid of the error regarding the default phone region, you can simply add default phone region followed by the country code where you live in, so in my example CH since I live in Switzerland, and this error will also be gone. Next, I'll try to tackle these two error messages here, and for this we're going to have to reload our htaccess file. We can do this by changing into the www-data user and running the OCC command, which is a program in the var www nextcloud directory, and pass it maintenance update htaccess. And additionally, you'll want to enable a few rewind rules on the virtual host in the Apache configuration file. So go back into the Apache sites available folder, edit the default configuration file, simply paste this text before the closing directory into your virtual host file. Save the file, enable the rewrite module, and restart your Apache service. And as you can see, if you reload your Nextcloud instance, this warning message has disappeared. This is actually quite important if you want to access your calendar and your contacts, for example, through a caldav app on your phone. Finally, there's this error message here, which actually is kind of a bit surprising since I specifically installed this module in the previous step, but I did some Googling and apparently we're going to have to uninstall this and then just reinstall it, and then the error message is going to disappear. So let's just uninstall everything associated with ImageMagick. So this would be the ImageMagick common as well as php-imagick. We can now auto-remove all of that stuff. And finally, let's reinstall both php-imagick as well as ImageMagick. Let's restart Apache. And as you can see, the error message has disappeared. Next, what I also usually like to do is to change the background job from Ajax to cronjob, which basically runs every 5 minutes. I think this is a bit better than only doing a cronjob whenever we do a page load, because in case you're not really accessing your Nextcloud web interface too often, then this actually never happens. So change over to cron and set up the cronjob on your server. This is pretty simple. We can do sudo cron tab, access it with the www user, edit the file. Now if this comes up, type in 1, because this will then select the nano editor, which is usually the easiest to use. And let's add the cron tab for our Nextcloud instance. What this means is that this cron tab is executed every 5 minutes of every hour of every day. Save the file, and that is it. Next, I want to show you how easy it is to enable ONLYOFFICE, which essentially you can use in order to edit Word, Excel, and PowerPoint files directly on your Nextcloud instance. This is actually super cool, and I would definitely recommend you guys to set this up. It's super easy. Click on your username, click on Apps, go to Office and Text, and download and enable the Community Document Server. Once this is done, scroll down and look for ONLYOFFICE and download and enable ONLYOFFICE. Next, click on Options again, go to Settings. Now, as you can see, there is going to be a new option in the Administration tab here, which is ONLYOFFICE. Make sure that this is the correct IP address of your server, or in case that you have a domain name, the correct domain name. Now go to Files, Documents, and open the Welcome to Nextcloud Hub.docx file. And that's it. Just like that, you have access to a full Word editor on your Nextcloud server. Pretty neat, huh? Finally, let me show you how to set up SMTP in order for Nextcloud to be able to send emails. Now, for this to work, you're going to have a running SMTP server, which you usually don't want to have on the same server that you have Nextcloud running on, because that's actually kind of complicated and you generally want to have an SMTP server, which you basically got with your domain name. So in my case, I have an email server under techguides.yt. Now to set up SMTP, click on your icon, go to Settings, click on Basic Settings, and fill out the information under Email Server. We'll want to use the *TTLS from the email account that I have the regular login method, tick Authentication Required, enter your SMTP server address, as well as SMTP port. Finally, enter your SMTP credentials, and click on Save. Now, before you click on Send Email, you'll definitely want to make sure that you actually have set up an email in your personal info. So update your information, go back to Basic Settings, and click on Send Email. And as you can see, the email has been successfully sent. And that's it, that's pretty much all you need to know in order to get your own instance of Nextcloud up and running on your own home server. Now, I hope this video was useful and helped you set up your own Nextcloud on your own server. However, if you still have any questions, then definitely don't hesitate to leave them in the comments down below. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Subscribe for more Linux related tutorials. Thank you guys so much for watching, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.